Yo conocí a Bolívar una mañana larga en Madrid, en la boca del quinto regimiento. Padre, le dije, ¿eres o no eres? ¿O quién eres? Y mirando el cuartel de la montaña dijo, despierto cada 100 años, cuando despierte el pueblo, 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 pueblo.
La misión es todo un éxito. Y yo diría, más que un éxito, es un ejemplo para el mundo entero de cómo se atiende a un pueblo. Barrio Adentro no tiene precedentes en la historia de las naciones. Gracias a Dios, gracias a todos. ¡Que viva Barrio Adentro!
Del suelo y alzo tanto su voz, que el pueblo se despertó del sueño en un por ahora. El antes y un día vio el dedo del destino, que la aflicción tiene voz de ancianos y de niños.
Hello, this is from Caracas. I'm Ray Gomez. On the Cuban Health Mission, Barrio Adentro, I will talk with Dr. Ronny Mayedo Velazquez. Please join us for the next few minutes. Hello, how are you? Thank you very much. When and why did the Cuban medical collaboration start in Venezuela?
Bueno, la misión médica cubana tiene un
The
nacimiento
Cuban Medical Mission has a very beautiful birth from that moment described in Venezuelan history as the Vargas disaster in 1999, rising as the initiative of Major Freddy Bernal in support of the community that had been immediately affected, being part also of the history of our country. Starting from the basis of that experience is a great idea of those two great men of history who are the immortal Supreme Commander Hugo Rafael Chavez Frias and our Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro. And that's how the Cuban Medical Mission Barrio Adentro was born.
Why is it considered one of the so-called great missions in Venezuela? In how many missions is this mission subdivided?
The Barrio Dentro mission is one of the great missions, since that moment becomes totally tangible what is described in the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, health as a Venezuelan people's right and a state responsibility. It became a great mission because it subdivided in several missions. What was born as Barrio Adentro became subsequently in Barrio Adentro too, with facilities of this type like where we find the CDI, high-tech centers, integral rehabilitation rooms, ophthalmic centers, and therefore all the range of potentialities that arise from the renewal and extension of hospitals, the diversification of high technology in them, and without doubt it becomes a great mission not only by its structure, but by the amount of collaborators who move around it, and to a great extent, the benefits that Venezuelan people receive from the institution.
You were talking on the potentialities, so how many specialties are currently in service here in Venezuela?
The medical mission Barrio Adentro is the largest scale mission in the country. A mission where not only there are more than 100 different specialties, but also more than 100 different services that encompass only areas of clinical care, but also areas of surgical attention. And a good example of it were the great potentialities developed during the last year, which, despite being a very complex year in the country in social and economic terms, before the call of the President Nicolas Maduro to promote and to eradicate in a way the great surgical depth that the country had, everything was mobilized in function of it. Specialties that, as I explained earlier, mobilized in the clinical issue, from internal medicine, general integral medicine fundamentally, intensive medicine passing through surgery, where we have today traumatologists, surgeons, urologists, gynecologists, and obstetricians, because our presence also extends to hospitals, where we support all the actions of the Maternal Child Health Program.
Are they distributed all over the national territory, I mean in all the states here in Venezuela?
That's correct. We started in 2003 a project that was very ambitious. Started with near 7,000 doctors' offices that cover up to that moment only 43% of the Venezuelan population. From the implementation of the tasks given by our commander-in-chief, one of them, without doubt, one of the most important things was to form the resource that was going to replace us eventually. We have been working intensely since the year 2005 in the training of Venezuelan physicians and specialists. That has given us the possibility that more than 30,000 doctors in Venezuela are graduated by our Cuban doctors today. That provided last year 100% of medical coverage for Venezuelan people. More than 14,000 popular offices where Venezuelan doctors and specialists work today, where the attention of a doctor is guaranteed for every 250 families, a historical fact that was only advanced by Cuba. That is, both Cuba and Venezuela are the only countries of the world today where 100% of the population is successfully covered.
Very interesting. So you were speaking on the healthcare services and how they have been structured within the mission Barrio Dentro. You were speaking on the medical cabinets, the so-called CDI, among others.
When the mission Barrio Dentro started, the first idea was to address a group of communities, given a first impact. That's how Barrio Dentro Uno goes forward, an idea which is then taken into a much more complex structure, the integral diagnosis centers, rehabilitation and high-tech centers. Added to that, the ophthalmological centers, the dental clinics and the optical clinics. This fact guarantees a general approach that becomes the primary health care. That is, without any doubts, the base of any health system in the world, which guarantees also, with a preventive medicine, a greater level of life in the population and, of course, an even higher satisfaction.
As part of this convention, a plan has been created to attend Venezuelans in Cuba. How does this program work? Who are benefited from this plan?
As part of the actions that became part of the projects of ALBA between Cuba and Venezuela, also arose the idea of the Cuba-Venezuela Convention. This agreement provides care in our country, in facilities that we know like La Pradera in Havana. That also encompasses a group of hospitals along the country, hospitals and institutes where patients are attended differentially. Patients that today, the reaching level of other missions or the Venezuelan institutions today do not have the way to solve the health problems that those patients have. We are speaking fundamentally of diseases of oncological type, complex diseases of orthopedics and traumatology. We have taken care of a significant group of children, and this has given a higher impact in all orders. All the patients we have evaluated and that, for example, have problems of drug addictions, we have been able to evaluate a group of them, and not only to evaluate them, but also recover them, evidencing, when they return, fabulous life stories. These are the things that move the feelings of Cuban doctors, the way patients are recovered once that we send them.
If a person here in Venezuela needs to travel to Cuba in order to be attended within this program, what does that person need to do? What is the process?
The process to access the Cuba-Venezuela agreement is instituted in each one of our states. Initially, a medical commission is in charge of evaluating all of these cases, taking into account that we have already sectorized all the Venezuelan population. Each neighborhood, each community is included in the action ratio of our comprehensive diagnostic centers, where patients can be approached and evaluated with the doctors we have there, if the entity or pathology presented is a taxation of the Cuban-Venezuelan agreement. For example, there are patients with diseases that are being sent after a first evaluation. They go to medical commission of the state, and finally the cases are sent to be evaluated to a national medical commission that radiates precisely here in the Integral Health Center, Salvador, Allende.
Okay. Let's now talk about the medical cabinets in Venezuela communities. How do they work?
Our popular doctors' offices encompass, as already said before, 250 families. We have brought the model that we already know and has already given significant contributions in the history of our country.
The doctor and the nurse of the family there in Cuba.
Exactly. The program of the family doctor in Cuba. When it started in 1984, we had already reached certain health levels, but again, the great ideas of our commander-in-chief, a new type of doctor, a physician with characteristics that could be able to engage all the pathologies of a general way that the individual can present as an individual, as a family, and as a society. In such integrative approach is the way we achieve to make preventive medicine, because we are very close to the grandparents, the pregnant women, children under 1 year, giving a comprehensive attention.
Okay. Some of these health cabinet centers have been affected by violent actions or guarimbas led by opposing groups in 2014 and 2017. What damages have those facilities suffered?
One of the main objectives of Venezuelan opposition was to affect one of the great conquerors of the revolutionary Chavez movement, that without any doubt is public health. The fact of having a group of structures as known as the popular doctor's offices, all disseminated throughout the geography, it became a blank of actions of ruthless group that, beyond pursuing political objectives, evidently focused on the weakening of the country, with affections were of different types, fundamentally prohibiting the access of sick patients to the assistance of a doctor, to the access of a nurse, of a social worker. Without discussion, it was an abominable act that affected the Venezuelan population in many ways.
And how have the Cuban health collaborators reacted to those violent actions?
Cuban doctors, both in offices and in CDIs, demonstrated the Cuban lineage once again. This means that we do not permit intimidations. Our General of the Army has stated on several occasions worldwide the solid commitment of Cubans in order to stay together with the Venezuelan people under any circumstances.
President Raúl Castro.
The President Raúl Castro, when all of these events took place, no institution was closed. Children were saved as well as elders, and in all the institutions, the doctors achieved to be there in order to provide the services.
Excellent. How different are the community health cabinets from the so-called integrated diagnostic centers or CDI?
As part of the actions of the Bolivarian government, the communal councils were created in each of the places where we provide our services. The nexus is made not only with the popular doctors' offices, but with the rest of the institutions. The communal councils are very close to the Cuban doctors, as well as both Cuban and Venezuelan administrations, working in order to achieve the true needs of community. We establish health diagnostics that allow us to know today what these priorities are, and in conjunction with the community, with its representatives, and with the people, we are contributing to health, because, at the end, people are the true protagonists.
For instance, this CDI where we are pre-recording this program, how does this work? How many specialties are here in service right now?
Nowadays, we are making a group of important tasks with the community, knowing what is the hygienic and epidemiological situation that is affecting the country, establishing the number of babies under 1 year old as well as pregnant women. This way we can potentiate effectively treatments to those groups that are diversified. From the 6 programs that prioritize the Ministry of Popular Power of Health in previous years, that have been the main lines of work years later, and are specially addressed to the attention of the pregnant woman, of the child under 1 year, of the patient, the elders, patients with chronic and transmissionary diseases, and without any place to doubt, joined with the communal councils and the authorities of the Ministry of Health, as well as the Foundation of Doctors of Barrio, Dentro. This is the way we have consolidated a group of success in the mission.
How do the rehab rooms work? We are in a rehabilitation room now, for instance. What kind of therapy services do you offer to the patients who come here?
There are levels of attentions that are conjugated. First, in the popular doctor's office, we make an identification of all patients that are within 4 dispensary groups, and depending on that dispensary group, we monitor and control the situation, starting from the identification of the problem. They are sent to our integral diagnostic centers, where they are evaluated completely, taking into account the ability to resolve that our integral diagnosis centers have. Starting off the surgical needs, we have 147 operation rooms in the country. Within those, in more than 500 CDIs that we have today in Venezuela, the surgical needs are evaluated, depending on our scope to intervene, or otherwise links with Venezuelan institutions that can guarantee their operation. We also have rooms of integral rehabilitation, which represent a great impact in the population, where are attended more than 150 patients daily. Here is where the achievement of medicine is done, because sometimes we see patients that are not able to walk or speak, and here we have helped them to walk and speak. We have seen children recovered, not only by the specialized service of a doctor, but also of our specialists in rehabilitation. We also have defectology with phonosoundology, pathology, among other services that encompass the most new equipment in diathermia, in hydrotherapy, in massage, gym services. That has caused an extraordinary strategic impact.
And what about the ophthalmic centers?
La Misión Milagro es parte de la misión.
The Milagro Mission is part of the Barrio Dentro mission. The Milagro Mission, with 18 ophthalmological centers along the Venezuelan geography, where we reinforce what we know as the Milagro Mission, a mission in which ophthalmological centers you can find first-level specialists, where we achieve a significant number of patients with waterfalls in their eyes, patients with pterygium, or patients with peripheral ptosis. This has been another of the most ambitious and also the most successful projects of ALBA.
Very interesting. Not only healthcare services are provided within the medical mission, but also medications have been dispensed. How so? Where do the medicines come from? Do they come from Cuba, for instance, and how are they distributed here in Venezuela?
The theme of the medicines is one of the most complex that Venezuela has nowadays, because of the complex situation that the country is going through. Since the birth of the mission, part of the convention was precisely the production of those medicines in the Cuban industries, starting with the purchase of a group of raw materials that are necessary, a fact that strengthens the Cuba-Venezuela agreement. Today, these medicines are produced in Cuban industries and shipped for Venezuela. Medications are sent into shelves that are not only directed to the medical Barrio Dentro mission, but also to Venezuelan institutions through the help of the Ministry of Popular Power for Health. The free delivery of medications is made not only at popular offices, but also at the centers of integral diagnosis. Medicines that, starting from a basic table of mortality studies, try to cover the most common diseases that the Venezuelan people have nowadays, and, of course, we make huge effort trying that these results arrive to our patients.
Who are benefited from the mission Barrio Dentro? Only Chavista Venezuelans are benefited from this mission?
The principle of Cuban medicine is to attend everyone as a human being. In fact, the concept of revolution of our commander-in-chief establishes that way, to be treated and to treat others as human beings. Then the distinction of the religious creed or the political position is going to be completely supplied by the Cuban and Venezuelan doctors who are formed in our institutions today. Patients with diseases, patients who need the love of a doctor, patients who need the professionalism and the acting of both Venezuelan and Cuban doctors. The own act of Cuban medicine moves awareness and sets the differences in a country where previously privatized medicine, if people were not capable of having an insurance or a payment for attention, they were capable of letting people die. Without doubt, one of the most important elements that distinguishes the mission is precisely this. We serve everyone likewise.
How have these health services been accepted by the patients, or what do they say?
The acceptance has been extraordinary. The fact of coming here and that patients can access completely free health services made with high professionalism was very contrary to the advertising campaigns that were initially made at the arrival of the Cuban medical doctors. It was said that we were not doctors, that we were healers, and that the medicines that we brought could affect the people. I think we lived extraordinary moments that speak about our acceptance among Venezuelan people. Since the first day, we had the honor of arriving here. We had the incredible satisfaction of living in the house of Venezuelan families, and so we learned many things of his culture, of his idiosyncrasy.
The arepa, the hallaca.
That's right, without any doubt, things that we may listen to at any time we shared, and we also teach them what the congre was. A nexus was created that went beyond the presence of the doctor. We were a family, and we're still a family. I think it goes further than the stories of those who are still here today, from our Jose Marti, our national hero, when he said, "Give me word to serve Venezuela, and the country will have a son in me." Here we are, the children of Marti, that new generation that today and every day has assumed a great commitment in order to be with Venezuelan people.
And how is the day-by-day routine in a facility from the Cuban Health Mission?
The initial day of a CDI, I think it is like a continuing life story. Our integral diagnostic centers work the 24 hours, being the morning the most agitated hour that deals with the delivery of guards, where each patient we have entered in our institution is presented, and we check the most interesting case because around CDI, around popular doctors' offices are like teaching scenarios. We're talking about a new type of university in which our students are analyzing the cases one by one, and with deep humanism and ethical sense. Each one of those cases is discussed taking into account the strategies for a better attention of our patients, what things can be improved, or with whom we have to establish bonds in order to make our actions even better.
What are the perspectives of the Health Mission Barrio Dentro in Venezuela?
The Cuban medical mission is nourished by the optimism of its maximum leaders, both Fidel in its moment, Chavez, Maduro, Raúl Castro. They are visionary people who have impregnated us of a deep optimism. The projections of the mission is to grow in all the senses, to grow and improve health programs. Especially in this year, it becomes a significant step. We are projecting to grow in specialties for secondary care.
For example?
We're going to work in the training of specialists working in hospitals, in surgical and clinical specialties, as part of the benefits that we started with the training of the community integral doctor after the specialist in general integral medicine. Now it begins like part of the second specialty. These same professionals in surgeons, gynecologists, endocrinologists, everything that this country needs to continue strengthening its health system and the quality and satisfaction of the Venezuelan people.
You mean in the coming years, could Venezuelan doctors work with Cuban doctors together?
We will continue working together. We will be here receiving the love of Venezuelans, the honor of being here while it's necessary. I think there is already a strong bridge between Cuba and Venezuela that goes far beyond formalisms or agreements. We are brothers of the same homeland, the big homeland of Simón Bolívar.
For instance, you, as a doctor, with your family far, far away from here, what is your personal experience?
For us, the Cuban physicians, to speak of the family is the most exciting thing. To see that our parents and our children who are far away constitutes a reason of pride, of extraordinary satisfaction. The main payment the Cuban doctors pursue when they return to Cuba is the satisfaction of the duty fulfilled. It is the satisfaction of seeing the tears in the eyes of our family when we return victorious of that great battle, of that great possibility that gave us our revolution to be useful to others, of feeling useful with what we do.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mayedo.
Thanks to you.
Okay, remember, this is from Caracas. I'm Ray Gomez. On the Cuban Health Mission, Barrio, Dentro, I have been speaking with Dr. Ronny Mayedo Velazquez here in Caracas, Venezuela. Thank you very much. Goodbye.